What's up, y'all? I'm Greer White. This is episode 4. Yep, episode 4 of Hunt and Harvest. I'm your host, Greer White. I'm inside today because it is howling outside. I am here to talk to you guys about pruning. Primarily peach trees because that's what I grow. That's what I've got experience in, education in. I don't have that much experience in it yet. I'm on my second growing season for my trees, and I'm planting another 125 next week. Right now it's February 22nd, 2026, and I only wish I started earlier, but I do have some horticultural education and some experience with Dr. Parker, the state fruit specialist for North Carolina State Extension, and he has been my professor and my mentor, and I've got some hands-on experience at Lakeview Pecans. If you guys haven't seen the previous podcast or long-form YouTube video associated with that podcast, please hop over to the Greer White YouTube channel or the Spotify Hunt and Harvest channel to listen to the podcast on either of those. And if you want to watch the long-form video, it is out on my @GreerWhite channel. That's G-R-I-E-R White. And it's also tagged in the description here if you're on Spotify or on YouTube. You're watching it on the Greer White channel, so that's perfect. And I don't know if you, hopefully you can't hear the howling wind right now. It's been pretty warm this late winter. Something just fell. Anyways, I want to go over some pruning tips, some basics really. I'm not going to go crazy in depth. I am going to do a YouTube video. Again, I've done one in the past. I'm going to do another one of a pruning day or demonstration for peach trees. But I am going to go over some basics about planting, and some things will translate to your apple trees and your nut trees and all the stuff that grows with a central leader. But not much. Not much is going to translate. So it's mainly going to be for stuff that fruits on lateral buds, peach trees, nectarines. That's kind of my focus right now. But it does have some crossover, and I'm going to leave a lot of educational resources in the description here, linked to Dr. Parker's research that he's worked really hard on, and some really good stuff that you can learn from him. He's got a lot of articles, and there's other videos about pruning that you can watch that are not just my own, from Dr. Parker as well. He's just a great resource. I'm really sad that they're not replacing his position. However, we're here. We got YouTube, right? Just listen to what anyone says on YouTube or Spotify. No, don't do that. Don't. But you know, I've got some good stuff here I'm going to share with you, and I've actually got a really cool book that Dr. Parker gave me, and I'm not going to read straight from it or anything like that, except for maybe one or two things. But this is the Southeastern Peach Growers Handbook from the Cooperative Extension Service in Georgia, and he gave this to me when he came out to look at my property before I made this choice to do this endeavor. It's been awesome. I haven't read the entire thing, but I've read a lot, and it's super cool. And it's nice to see that the pictures of the fruit trees and stuff, when you look at it on their diagrams with their figures, you're like, that's exactly what I got out there for this peach tree. And I'm like, perfect. That's what I want to see. I'm really hopeful. I actually just went to the North Carolina Peach Growers Association meeting last Monday. It got rescheduled from the ice storm, and I got to go because of that reschedule, because I didn't even know it was then. I didn't know it was in January, but they moved it, and I got to go. Took off work, and it was amazing. I met some legends. One guy's 88 years old, PD Orchards in, I forget the township, but it's in North Carolina, very east of Charlotte, Sandhills area, very east of Charlotte. And, you know, him and his son, just awesome people. And the Chappells who run the organization, super grateful. They've already been super helpful, just responding to me. Ken Chappell's son, Evan Chappell, is the president of the North Carolina Peach Growers Association. And it was just great to meet them and learn from people who actually do it and have been doing it for a long time, generations. And the guy that I was sitting next to, the Greens, he's 88, the father is 88 years old, still farming. He does all the weed control. He gets up on the tractor, the mower, and does all of that, still harvesting, still running their farm stand. They sell ice cream. They got their own ice cream machine. They make peach ice cream and all other sorts of flavors. So hopefully, I've already talked to them. They said yes, they would love, or well, I don't know if they'd love it, but they were super kind, and they were like, yes, come on out. They said I could film. I asked about harvest, and so hopefully we'll get to go out there and film Harvest and just film their operation just for a little bit, get a little insight. But this guy at one point said that he did 1,100 acres of peaches in his lifetime. He said it was the craziest thing he did. He's not doing 1,100 acres right now. They have about 140 at the time, right now, which is bearing peach trees, 140. That's insane. Let's do a quick calculation. I can't remember how many trees that is. And his spacing's shorter than mine, so it's actually more than this, but we're just gonna go based on 5 more trees than what I'm doing per acre. So 19,600. It's more than that. It's more than that, because I think he's doing 18 by 10 foot. I'm doing 18 by 18. It's probably too far apart. I could probably shorten it. 18 by 12, 18 by 10, but I'll get into that when I get into a larger scale farming. You know, I'm probably gonna have like 250 trees, you know, almost. Hopefully they all live and bear. But enough of that. It was just really cool. Look out for that episode. Thank you guys for watching, and please subscribe and follow on Spotify, subscribe on YouTube, leave a like, leave a comment, give me 5 stars on Spotify. I really appreciate it. I'm new to this podcast thing. I'm going to be talking about hunting and agriculture, farming. You know, these are my 2 topics. I'm trying to keep it actually in a box and a niche here for the podcast and series part. I want it to be about hunting and agriculture. It may be just me in front of the camera. It may be me with a guest, like with the Lakeview Pecans episode, which was amazing. Amazing interview, amazing long form video attached to that. Maybe we'll have some hunters on here. Maybe we'll get together with some people I hunt with, you know, or maybe one day I can get Tim Wells to come and talk about spear hunting or something. You know, we'll see. We're just going to keep rolling because I'm really passionate about these 2 things and kind of want to do them for the rest of my life, and it'd be really cool to make a living out of it. But what I'm going to do right here is try to provide some value and teach you guys a little bit about pruning. And you may already know this, so it's cool if you're just listening and you already know, or maybe you hate me and think that what I'm saying is wrong, and that's cool too. Leave a comment. And there's tons of resources below, so you don't need to just look at me. But if you ever are confused and you are like, you know, I don't know what to do, I don't know where to look, I don't know where to start, your podcast was helpful, but I need more, I need this, or I don't know what to do here, you can message me and I definitely can help you either from my own knowledge or put you in front of some knowledge, some value that will guaranteed help you. But the only thing that can truly help you is getting out into the field or your backyard. Obviously, if you've got a bunch of peach trees, you probably already know what you're doing, hopefully. But if you've got peaches or fruit trees in your backyard, or nut trees in your backyard, or you're a homesteader or hobby grower, whatever, or maybe you haven't started at all, you know, if you need some direction and this wasn't enough for you, message me on Instagram, Facebook, whatever, and I can either answer your question or provide the value or the resource that you would need. Specifically, I can point you in the right direction, but you still got to get out there and do it, because, you know, it's scary to think you got to do this and take everything about farming, especially with fruit trees and nut trees. You know, you make a choice and it affects you next year. So, and the year after, and the year after, you do it every year. So you're always affecting you. Future you is always hanging in the balance. So I understand it can be scary. It definitely is. But when you do it, you know, 200 times in a row, and then do it every year, and you just keep doing it more and more, you get better. And I'm getting better for sure. But I can definitely do that. So one of the things I want to talk about is why pruning matters. Pruning matters because you want to make sure that your fruit tree can actually support fruit one day. And if you do not do that, if you do no pruning at all, your tree's just going to do whatever it wants. And it's going to think only about reproduction. How can I reproduce as much as possible and feel like I did good as a tree to spread my seed and to, you know, flower and to do all these things, just to reproduce. It's not thinking about you making fruit because you want to eat a bunch of fruit or sell a bunch of fruit. It's not thinking about that. So you got to do that for it. That's why pruning matters. And you want to make sure that when you're pruning, that you're doing it at the right time. The right time to prune is going to be late winter, because the earlier in winter you do it, or late fall, when there's still leaves on the tree, you're gonna potentially injure that tree or open it up to winter injury, depending on how cold it gets, or what kind of cut you make. You could be making a mistake doing it that early. It is best to plant and to prune in late winter, or midwinter. And the reason why I mentioned plant was because a lot of people say, oh, when should I prune my peach tree? I've had it for 3 years and it looks kind of weird. Haven't gotten much fruit. When should I prune it? Well, you missed the swing on that. That was 3 years ago when you planted it. You need to plant it and then you need to prune it immediately, because you're going to make these choices now. Every year following, you're going to make these choices so that way you can select the scaffold branches that are, or in the case of apple or nut trees or whatever that grows on a terminal bud for fruit, you're going to choose that based on a central leader. But remember, I'm going to speak mainly about peach trees. So you want to make these choices now so that way you have strong scaffold branches coming out, lateral branches that are going to end up in a bowl shape one day, like quad V formation. It's kind of like you're going to look down at your tree and you're going to see like an X if you look down in it. And this is kind of hard to just yap about. It'll be really cool when you guys watch my pruning demonstration video. I know you're totally going to click on that if you're here. But yeah, it's sort of like a bowl that you're trying to train it to, and you want to have somewhere in the range of 3 to 5 scaffold branches. And when I say scaffold branches, it's these big branches that are going to come out near the trunk, like in the 18, or come out from the trunk in the 18 to 24 inch range, and they're going to come out and they're going to become really big and go upwards, but they're going to go out first instead of just straight up. You want to remove that central leader and you want to train it that way. So you got to do it right when you plant. And there's a couple cuts you can make, and this is where I'm gonna point to this book. If you're listening just on audio with Spotify, I understand, you can just look at it later. But the two types of cuts that you really need, the two types of cuts that there are, is heading cut and a bench cut. And I'm gonna read the definition from the Georgia Peach Growers, or the Georgia handbook, because it's got a really great definition and it's got pictures, and I can show you these because there's not a tree in front of me. This is a podcast. So heading cut is, all right, so it's got, I'm gonna read it real quick. Heading removes a portion of the shoot or limb stimulating branching below the cut. Heading is most useful for stimulating branching at specific locations when training young trees. Thinning removes an entire shoot or limb to its point of origin or to a side limb. Thinning is the least invigorating type of cut, with the least effect on reducing fruit production. Thinning cuts are most useful for promoting fruit production and for maintenance pruning. So here is I hope this is cameraed up correctly, but if you see here, this is examples. Try to get the camera to look right. This is actually really hard. Okay, this is the heading cut. So it's got like these little dash marks here. That's a heading cut. So it's like right here at the tips of these shoots. And then here's an example of what would happen after you make those choices. And then a thinning cut is all the way at the base of the shoot, And then this is the example of what it would look like after you make those thinning cuts. That's one type of cut. Sorry, it's really hard to hold I didn't think that was gonna be that hard, but it was. So bench cut, here's their definition. Bench cut is formed by pruning a vigorous upright limb to a more horizontal limb. Due to loss of apical dominance in the horizontal limb, vigorous water sprouts develop at the bench. Correct method is to thin limbs that are more similar in angle, more similar in angle to maintain some apical dominance. Scaffolds should be trained at a 45-degree angle in early years to minimize needs for bench cuts. So I'm gonna try this again. Down here, down here is where the bench cut would be. So you got your trunk right here, and that cut, where that dashed line, that's where they're saying you'd cut for a bench cut right there. And it's a very vigorous, upright limb and you're cutting it right here, and then you got one right here as well, and this is what it would look like after. Gosh, try to get that in the center of the frame. And then here is the correct method right here. See, you don't want your tree to look like that. That is not how you want your tree to look. So you make these cuts here, and you're gonna remove that apical dominance, and you're gonna get more growth out of your lateral branches. And that's good because these are gonna be your scaffold branches that are gonna end up holding all your fruit. You want them to be big and strong, and you want all your tree's carbohydrates and energy to go to that. Thanks for putting up with that. I know that was maybe hard to watch for me to try to show it to you on the thing. And honestly, it made me sweat because I'm like, oh, this is not that great of a demonstration. I'm showing you a book, but those are really good definitions. And I just love those figures. It's really good for a podcast, or at least I thought it was. It's kind of hard to hold up. But you really just need to make sure that you're selecting your branches early on, your scaffold branches in that range of the 18 to 24 inch range, and then every year after that you want to just remove any water sprouts or anything growing beneath or straight into the canopy of your peach tree. When you're pruning to that open center, that quad V formation, you don't want those water sprouts beneath the branches because they're just shaded, waste of energy. Cut those all the way back. And cut those all the way back, and any of those growing in towards the center of the canopy, no good. That is no good. Forgive me for not being super articulate here. I don't want to give the wrong advice to somebody listening. That's why I'm including so many resources with this. This is hopefully helpful to you in some way, but I also really want you to click on those links or message me if you have a concern or a question, because I can either point you in the right direction or you can get a lot out of these resources that I'm bringing awareness to. So those are some big things that you need to consider when pruning, planting your peach trees. And you really, if you have waited 3 years, 2 years, whatever, to prune your peach tree, and you ask someone and they're like, yo, you should have started 3 years ago, like I just said, you're not cooked. It's not completely over. It's just that tree has not been living its optimal life, but that doesn't mean you give up on it. Go out there and prune it. Try to fix it. You're going to learn more not listening to me, but going out there and trying it, after listening to me or reading something. So I think it's super fun. At first it's scary, but then you just keep doing it over and over and wow, I'm actually getting really good at this. This makes a lot of sense. And when you see it, not necessarily on a paper like that, like I just tried to show you, but when you see it and you do it, you learn so much, and it's going to invigorate that tree growth a lot. And I want to end on something that a lot of growers maybe don't agree with. Maybe they do. I prune my peach tree roots like on the edges just a little bit, just a tiny amount. I think it's going to invigorate the root growth. I've had good root establishment so far. I had insane floods and rains last summer and spring. It was the wettest season I've ever experienced here in my area my entire life, and that's what a lot of the older people have said. And they're like, this is the wettest spring, wettest summer ever. And I thought a lot of these trees were going to die or even just get pushed over from all the flooding rain. The water was washing away. So thankfully they didn't get wet feet and stand in water, which by the way will kill your fruit tree if you put it somewhere where it does not drain. And I thought they were cooked because I could literally move them during the storms. And not that I was out there doing that, but I could, and it was being pushed by the water, and they're great. Some of my best trees. So, I think I've had some good root establishment, and I'm planting. I planted even later than I'm planting this year. And so the roots establish quick, in the winter. The roots are growing still, even though the tree is not, and it's establishing itself. And I've been told not to do that, Ben does it with his pecan trees. Pecan trees are different. They're massive. They have massive roots. Peach trees, everyone's like, no, you need every little bit you can get. Well, I'm not cutting off much. I'm just like just a little bit and a little bit on the taproot and just a tiny bit, just like pruning on the top. I have a feeling based on what Ben has told me and what some other people have told me, like that's probably could be a beneficial thing to root establishment. So think about that when you're planting and pruning your peach tree before you put it in the ground. And then once you put it in the ground, make sure you make these good choices. So that was 20 minutes of me yapping about a topic that I am still learning about. I have a lot of resources that I would love for you to check out from NC State Extension, from Dr. Parker, from myself. I'm going to do a pruning demonstration video that'll probably be up next on the YouTube video. So I'm just grateful for that anyone who listens or got anything out of this. It just means the world that anyone would even play this on YouTube, Spotify, whatever. I'm grateful. And if you are here, just know that I've got a lot more coming. I'm learning more as I go, and I'm going to share with you all of my experiences, and I'm trying to figure out this direction that social media is going to take me, and hopefully I can make all of this my full-time, this and selling produce. I hope to be my full-time, and I'm trying to find a way to document it properly and give you guys value and have fun doing it. So thanks for listening. I know that may have not been perfect, and if you were just listening on audio, sorry about showing you a book and a podcast, but I really appreciate you watching, guys. Please subscribe, follow for more, and I'll see you next time.